Thursday, typically not the best day for the Bitcoin boulas, that is, but there is some icing on the cake, as we'll go over a little bit later within this video. So we're going to go over the short term and then also kind of the rest of the month of December, maybe even a little bit of January as well, because I want to start to really bring in a more nuanced interpretation, of what's going on, at least what I believe is going on, or what the statistics show that is most likely to be going on throughout this next, I would say, month to month and a half period. Anyways, other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little mud Thursday morning, and we can start this one off with yet another one of these meta signal setups over here. The reason why I've been shielding them so damn hard is because I'm an investor, and yes, I am an investor, but also because they're going to be taking away their free Discord access on the 12th of December. So if you do want to get kind of like a more like insightful look as to what they're doing and how these setups are going, and get these in real time, then definitely check out their Discord link, which I'll have one in the description below. And yeah, December 12th is when they end that, and then they go dark. Actually, I have to speak to the owner about that one. But yeah, Ethereum Classic over here, smashing that the first, second target, not bad. In fact, I'd even say, hey, maybe it was a little bit too conservative on this one, but conservative is usually a good thing to be when the market isn't just in full on bull mode, which kind of has been for the past, while now. Anyways, now we can move on into some more short-term time frame stuff for Bitcoin. It is Thursday. As always, I want to remind myself about these statistics on Thursdays, which it is the least likely day throughout Bitcoin's history to print positive gains from open to closure. If we look at the stats over here, it is at 35.42% of all Thursdays in Bitcoin's history have closed positively. So it is theoretically the most, or it's not theoretically, it's statistically speaking, the most bearish day. But what's actually very interesting about that is this. It actually, if you are looking at those negative days, the return on them has been an average, if you're just looking at the negative days, the return on those has been an average of 1.67%, which is actually one of the lowest that we typically see besides the weekends. It's the lowest weekday, certainly, that we've seen. So what does that kind of align with here? Well, it aligns with kind of what we spoke about over the past couple of days. Short term, Bitcoin can very easily put in a pullback from this $44,000 region, but that's probably just going to be a short-term thing, as we'll go over a little bit later. So if we were to look at those statistics as relevant, what would 1.67% to the downside look like, or 1.5% to the downside look like? Somewhere around $43,000 if Bitcoin wants to do it. That's completely fine. But ultimately, the greater trend still likely prevails for a little bit longer. So I really need to watch my tone now, because like I said, for the past few months, it's been pretty easy to be more blindly bullish and just generally looking for upside with, strong conviction. While I do think that this run has more to go, I do think that it's going to be time to start tempering expectations on this particular channel so we can hopefully differentiate ourselves from other channels and be more realistic as to what's likely to happen here. Because at some point, I do believe Bitcoin's going to put in a pretty sizable pullback, somewhere between 25 to maybe even 40%. Again, I do think that Bitcoin still goes higher from here, but I want to start to bring that into the verbal picture. So you're going to hear me repeat that line a lot, just because, well, I don't want to get carried. I personally don't want to get carried away with the exuberance of this market right now, and I also don't want to see it on this channel as well, despite the clickbait YouTube thumbnails. Anyways, yeah. So again, Thursday, the least likely to be bullish, but on the other side, not super concerning here. I do think that a short-term pullback likely leads towards medium-term and long-term continuation ultimately. And even on the Thursdays that have had a positive closure, the return for those has been about 2.41%. So let's actually see what that would look like on top of current open, and 241 would put Bitcoin actually at new highs for the year, somewhere around very, very close to $45,000 actually. So Thursday would be a good day for a little bit of a short-term washout, and then set up for continuation later. Why do I talk about continuation later? I want to call back to this chart. We spoke about this earlier this week on the live stream, but the live stream videos kind of get washed out in just the length of the content. So I just wanted to make sure that I focus a little bit more on a dedicated video like this. And I wanted to point out that yet again, I think this is best seen on the monthly time frame. GBTC, which I do believe is probably the closest corollary that we can find as far as a chart goes to represent the likelihood, or maybe not the likelihood, as that's very high, but the proximity of a Bitcoin ETF is this one, because GBTC has like their open case against the SEC or whatever the fuck it is. I don't actually really know all that much about it, but which is like terrible thing to say. But my point is that it kind of represents, the likelihood that GBTC gets that ETF that they've applied for, and it seems like they're quite close to getting. So here is a very interesting thing about GBTC chart. GBTC in December has made new highs for the year. That's great. So is Bitcoin Spot. But what it has done completely differently than Bitcoin Spot, it has traded above the March of 2022 rejective bull trap highs that you see right here, which is really fucking important because one, we likely expect Bitcoin to follow in its footsteps because, well, one, the correlation is high, and two, the correlation is high. I mean, that's really all that matters there. Let's just look at it for a second. Okay, maybe not fucking my dwarfs. My dwarfs! Actually, sorry, GBTC is what I'm looking for right here. The correlation is very, very high between these, maybe not on a 4-hour, but in a daily, very, very high. This is Bitcoin Spot versus GBTC and weekly time frame as well. And we've seen, a pretty strong correlation between these two in the past as well. We used to reference this a lot back in 2018 and 2019 over here. Lots of its relevancy kind of in 2020, but before that, it was the first mover usually. So we would look at it a lot on this channel to kind of get an idea of what Bitcoin would do, kind of on the general trend. And in this case, I think that we're kind of witnessing the same thing here. It did move first to the upside as well, by the way, in September, ahead of Bitcoin Spot. And well, this one I suspect is kind of a harbinger of things to likely come as it does reach very close to the 786 Fibonacci retracement. I don't know if this current run is necessarily done right here, but I do think that regardless of whether it goes up a little bit more towards that 786 or not, you're very likely going to see at least a weekly swing top here, at least a weekly swing, maybe even a monthly. And at that point, things can retrace back down to like maybe mid 30s or something like that. Mid 30s on Bitcoin Spot, or maybe even low 30s. I don't know. But ultimately on this one right here, trading back above those highs would be akin to what on Bitcoin Spot? Well, if we look at it over here, those highs would be about $48,000. And if we were to look at a Fibonacci retracement, well, what do you know? The 786 would be just around $50,000, kind of just above them as well. And I do think that because of the strength that Bitcoin's had in approaching this region relatively fast on a monthly time frame, we probably do see an overshoot of this region right here, similar to GBTC. I think that it will become closer to this region, maybe even hit $50,000, which would be a nice round even number, and probably get a lot of headlines going, and just be a great place for a major pullback. Whether it be 25% or maybe even 40%. I mean, that would be I think very poetic. Like put in perspective, 25% pullback from there puts Bitcoin at 37,400. 40% puts you closer to 30,000. So just putting things into perspective at the moment. Now, of course, we can take this one step further, right? Because we can, if I bring up where is it? You fucking bastard, you're hiding. I'm hiding my own, I'm hiding my own charts for myself. Yeah, there we go. The fundamentals halving chart. That's the one I'm looking for. We can see that all past cycles before the halving has started and after the parabolic blow off top from the prior cycle top has hit somewhere around that 786. So if we go back here to the Genesis, all these green vertical bars represent those halving points. This downtrend line right here represents, the parabolic blow off top. And when Bitcoin breaks it, then it it has every time entered into that rally before the halving date itself, usually getting very close to that 786, in some cases actually even overshooting it. So you can see this one over here from 2012. You can see this one over here from 2015, 2016. Again, this one like rallied right before the halving itself, like on that last major move. But yeah, it still got there as well, very, very close to the 786. And in this case, the most recent one in 2018, 2019 actually even overshot the 786. So looking at these and looking at this one right here, I do think that Bitcoin could very easily do something like this, maybe even overshoot it a little bit. What I'd really be looking for is like, a quick move above, and then before the weekly ends, slam it back down, whether that be like back down to mid 40s or maybe even low 40s, that would be fucking good. That, I mean, it wouldn't be good for a lot of people, obviously, but that would be good for, a major signal of a greater secular market pullback. But until then, Bitcoin still is more upside here in the more near term. I do still think that December is most likely going to continue on, just based off the statistics with it. We know that December is, if September has also been bullish, one of the most bullish months for Bitcoin. Again, that's with the major caveat that if September did close green, which it did, 4 out of 5 Septembers have only ever done that in Bitcoin's history. Well, December has been 80% of the time from that green, and majorly green, with an average return of 20%, which would put Bitcoin somewhere around $47,000. You're probably asking, how do I know this? Well, it's because I have my fucking statistics over here. Should I even show it right at this point? You probably already seen it. It's probably going to bore the shit out of you, but I'm going to show it anyways. Because I want this video to be more comprehensive. I want this video to tie in a lot of ideas, and I want to make this video as clickbaity as possible so that so that hopefully it gets seen by some people out there. That would be nice. That's the whole point of YouTube, isn't it? Anyways, when September is green, which has only been 5 times in history, 4 out of the 5 Decembers to follow that did have positive returns, and the average return was almost 24%. So pretty big numbers right there. Again, 25-ish% from the open of December would put Bitcoin where? $47,500. So again, getting us very close to that 76. A lot of things just kind of align within that region. And yes, I do think that after that, we're very likely going to witness a pretty sizable pullback. You see this one over here. From the Rona times, I'll actually measure this on a closing basis because it's probably more accurate. 41% pullback. It's not a fucking pullback, it's a crash. It's a fucking crash. What happened after this one over here? Again, on a closing basis, well, we can do this one on a wick basis because it's not as egregious and we don't necessarily have a black swan there, but that was a 40% move in the following 3 months or in the following 2 months. Yes, it did get picked up, but 40% move, big. This one over here, again, coming back down pretty fast after that. Doesn't look like shit on the chart, but that's a 40% crash. Actually, they're all 40%. I don't know why I keep on saying 25 to 40%, but maybe I just want to have some Bulog glosses on that one. But yeah, something like that likely makes the most sense. So fair enough. Anyways, I did want to follow up on, there was yet another setup. Where was it? No, it's not this one. It's not that one. Is it this one? No, it's this one. Yeah, so this setup over here, which was based off the HPDRO and the HPDRV, which was also giving us the likelihood of a nice upside move. This was coming off of the setup given in November 27th. This one has actually been closed by these metrics. So if you were looking at this and you were paying attention to this channel at that time, that trade is, as far as this setup goes, as far as using these tools go, that one's done, basically. Doesn't mean that it can't go higher, again, just like this one did over here. But if you're looking for these statistics over here to be relevant, it's no longer relevant, I suppose, because the exit conditions have been met. Just kind of going throughout the history of time here. Yeah, we've seen a lot of these overshoot as well. So I wouldn't, again, that's not a signal that the rally is done just yet, but it's getting closer and closer, obviously. The average winning trade for this one was 27%. I think this one just got to 20%, so it certainly undershot that metric. 27% from that particular open would put Bitcoin 47,500. Again, many things coming around that region. I do think that an overshoot from this region, however, is still likely possible, just because I know that sort of an area is starting to get spoken about a lot. Like maybe a quick wick above 50,000 and slam it back down, and then begin like a market-wide pullback for a couple months. That would be nice. That would be really, really nice. Anyways, won this one on the HPDR bands. Again, for CME, we have seen the range step up a little bit here. The current top side of the range is 45,350. Bottom side of the range is currently at 41,600. I would go as far to say that anywhere below Tuesday's low would be kind of a confirmation of like a major top in the short term. I don't think that's what's happening, but that would be my conditions for that. You always need to have conditions for that, of course. But hey, the next big area to be aware of to the upside for Bitcoin spot, not Bitcoin CME. Bitcoin spot would be 44,350 or so. If Bitcoin could close it daily above there, we're very likely going to see that next move up somewhere around 47.5, which, what do you fucking know, is the next 90% of historic returns range high. Fucking crazy, man. Absolutely fucking crazy. HPDRO getting way up there. HPW, not up there at all, really. Yeah, likely one more move. I do think that it could be like a pretty impressive parabolic move as well. Doesn't necessarily have to happen this week, doesn't necessarily have to happen next week, but I do think sometime around end of month. And then after that, I would really start to be exercising caution. I do think that this market is getting, it's hot, but it's not super hot just yet. It's just hot. It's pretty hot. We're very fucking close, very, very close. I mean, again, like we've been monitoring, we've been pretty bullish on this basically since December of last year. One full year of basically straight up. I mean, it's not super crazy to be saying that, hey, probably going to see a pullback at some point. I don't know. Anyways, I hope that this information was in some way helpful or useful to your life. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it just confused you more. Maybe you just look at me and you hate me, and fair enough. You'd be happy to know that today, this morning, when I took my morning dump, literally felt like I was giving birth, and it was painful. It was very, very painful is what I'm trying to say. And there you go. So you can have that in the back of your minds as you wish all sorts of terrible things upon me, but you should be happy because you've probably been making a shit ton of money in this market. I mean, well, unless if you didn't, in which case you should probably be pretty pissed off because you don't get opportunities like this too often. And fair enough, I'm gonna leave it right there. Look, if you're down bad right now, it can only get better. Or not, it could get worse as well. With that said, take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.